I'm delighted to see some friendly faces from yesterday. The whole research group spent most of the day yesterday visiting early childhood centers in Sydney, and see some from yesterday on the benches behind. Thank you for spending your time with us. That was very interesting. Though I was aware of the differences between Australia and Norway before I came down there, after yesterday I've seen that there's perhaps more similarities than I was aware. I guess Mansla put me at last as the last speaker because I have the shortest time. So let's go to it. I start with a theoretical framework. The issue for me is how the director is able to make the early childhood center a good learning environment for children in the interaction between the stakeholders in the large community and the small community. Small community is the institution or the early childhood center which the director is head of. This is a theoretical framework I have picked up from a Danish scientist, Claudia Clausen. So the question is how to interact in this space. You are supposed to be a leader inside your own institution, the small community, with the stakeholders in the small community. And you are also supposed to be a leader facing the stakeholders in the large community. And from the large community, at least in Norway, the goals and the framework are given to the director. But the idea is how to prefer those goals, and to perform those goals, you have to pick yourself. And then again, back again to the large community. You have to deliver outcome reports, budget, documentation to the parents, and so on. So how do the directors feel? How do they perform in this field of tension between those two areas? And the important stakeholders in the large community is, of course, politicians, media, but also then we have national and municipality levels. You have stakeholders locally, and you have the national stakeholders, the early childhood center owners, and of course the parents. This is a kind of the background. In 2006 we got us that new framework plan, and the focus changed a bit from more like it used to be focused on play, learning and care, and now the focus was more learning focus. And it was defined 7 areas of learning for the early childhood center. This was new in this plan. And the stakeholders in the large community are very concerned about how this is going to happen. And there's a public pressure in the early childhood center, early childhood area in the sector about the early childhood centers being a good learning environment for children and to be prepared for school. In this, we have 2 concepts of learning. The school concept with a focus on learning, the early childhood focus on interaction between play, learning and care. In school you have formal learning, and as it says in the framework plan, there should be a learning in interaction between formal and informal learning. In the school concept, the learning is based on teaching, and in the early childhood concept, it's based on the children's experience. So, or I should go back again. So the question is, the early childhood concept of learning is well known in the small communities, but it's not that well known in the large communities. So the stakeholders in the large community, when they are looking at the early childhood area, they're using often the school concept of learning as a model. There's another theoretical framework from the Norwegian, Ulrik. It's talking about translation of ideas. New ideas transferred from an organization to another needs to be translated between the different contexts. And the leader takes the role as a translator. The director in the early childhood center takes the role as a director. And this translation requires competence. First of all, you have the classification competence, which means that the translator must have an in-depth knowledge of the organization in which these ideas are about to be implemented. Existing practices, procedures, structures, values, attitudes, and so on. And these elements will affect the organization's ability to respond to changes of the new ideas. So based on this knowledge, the translator sort out what kind of ideas the organization needs. And then we have the configuration competence, which is the translator must have knowledge about how to implement these new ideas in their organizations. How to adapt new ideas from one idea or one organization to another, and know how the new ideas best can be customized or implemented in the new context. So based on this knowledge, the translator chooses how these ideas will be implemented in their organization, or in this case, the director can pick from a flow of information what are we going to do to make learning happen in the early childhood center. So, the question is, do the directors consider that they have the competence necessary to make the right choices, to make the early childhood center a good learning environment for children? Do they feel confident about that? And here I picked up two typical answers from our sample. There are more. I picked these two. First of all, a classification competence. As a leader, do you consider that you have that your job is to sort out, choose in the flow of information what's interesting for you or appropriate for you? And the answer is clearly yes, I do. And do you consider that you have acceptance in your staff to make these selections? And the answer is, without hesitating, yes. Quite typical for the interviews. Why do you think that this is appropriate for you? And the answer is, it has to be based on how things are here in our early childhood center, what we are passionate about, and what our vision and our themes are, and what we are doing. They know their organization, and they know where it would be, where the fights will come when I come in with new ideas. And as one of our hosts yesterday told us, we asked what's your job as this was an owner, and she said, bringing out new ideas, but this might also be this can implement conflicts as well, making up new ideas. So, let's see some conclusions, or one of them. The first of all, the director in our sample consider themselves authorized to choose the means which seems appropriate to make easy and good learning environment for children. And one of the informants said something like that. I must lead on the basis of unclear governance documents, as Yngve said. This, and I interpret this like, this unclearness can be considered as intentional in the framework plan. The directors are given what shall be done, but not how this is to be done. And they're given responsibility to choose the means. It's their job. And this creates a space of action and can be seen as a freedom to choose and gives the director a right to choose which is accepted in the staff. As one of the directors says that this is an important task being a leader to perform this. That in fact this is my job to be the one who picks out the means we are going to use. So the director considers themselves competent to choose the right means and competent to customize and implement the ideas in the interaction with the staff in their centers. So let's go back to the model again. One of the issues here is the concept of learning. And there's a great reluctance in the early childhood center to use the models known from school. There's a great reluctance to pick up the models from the schools with measuring, learning, and to use the same way of pedagogy like they use in the schools. And in Norway, there's seems to become a market for to provide different models, different tools, programs to the early childhood center to perform this learning in the centers, and there's a great reluctance against that. And this is the idea here. There's a lot of ideas of how learning is to be performed in the early childhood center in the small community, and there's a certain pressure from the stakeholders in the large community this way, and it's the director who's in the squeeze in the middle, and I says yes, and that's my job to do it. At least those 16 were in our center.